I've been waiting for this one, so if killer dolls aren't your thing, this might not be the movie for you. This is 2022's M3GAN. Warning, spoilers ahead. We open up to a commercial, and it's a scarring one. Oh, your pet died? Screw that old thing. Here's a robot hairball pet that'll outlive you so long as you keep the battery charged. What better way to deal with grief than to move on to something even more creepy? Perpetual pets are like the future's version of Furby, but they aren't less creepy. They even go to the bathroom. Your child can play with it on the tablet, too. Then we meet Katie as she plays with her perpetual pet in the back seat, and her parents are about done with the long drive for their trip. Her mother's furious that her sister Gemma sent her a perpetual pet, and Katie's dad thinks that this is just what the future looks like. As they drive, he starts to lose control of the car while driving through the snow, and they decide to sit still for a moment. As they sit patiently, a snowplow comes out of nowhere and rams right into their car. No, not the perpetual pet! No, not Katie's parents. Back at the toy headquarters, everyone's working hard testing out new toys, and Gemma is working with Cole and Tess on new perpetual pets prototypes. That is until Cole shows up with a package for Gemma. Gemma opens the package to show the face that's supposed to go on her latest invention, a fully automated android that's supposed to walk and talk like a real human being. Cole wraps the face on the android, and Gemma starts working on some generic tests. Cole starts running tests on facial animations, and Gemma thinks that the code isn't reacting properly. As Cole tries to remove the face from the android, their boss David arrives to see the progress on the latest perpetual pets. David's assistant shows Gemma the commercial from their competitor, who's ripping off perpetual pets, and he's furious that she's wasting their time and resources on the android instead of a new pet. I don't know what's creepier, this halfway completed android or the perpetual pets. Gemma tells David that if he just watches what M3GAN is capable of doing, he'll change his tone. Suddenly, M3GAN starts malfunctioning, but Cole forgot to put a module back in, and M3GAN's head explodes. So why isn't Cole fired? M3GAN's worth $500,000 and he's just like, damn, my bad. David's furious and he tells Gemma that she has a deadline for a new pet model. She packs up the pieces of M3GAN, but she suddenly gets a call from the hospital. She rushes over to find Katie in critical condition, and she signs for temporary custody of her niece. When Gemma brings Katie home, the gravity of the situation starts to sink in for her. Once home, the neighbor's dog jump scares everyone, and I'd imagine that dog won't be around very long. The neighbor Celia is not the best person to be living next to, but what's even better is the fact that Gemma's house is fully automated. Gemma tells Katie to make herself at home, and she leaves her to it. Of course, Katie's a kid, and immediately gravitates to the collectible toys on the shelf. As a huge collector, I'd worry for these collectibles. Mine are high off on the ground to keep kids and animals away from them. As the day goes on, this is clearly a not-so-kid-friendly house, and Gemma knows it. She assures Katie that she'll do everything she can to make this feel like home. But when Katie tells her that her mom used to read her a story, Gemma says she doesn't have any. She does try to read one from her phone, but those dreaded updates keep her from doing it. When Gemma goes to unpack some boxes from her sister, she can hear Katie crying in her room. The next day, Katie calls Tess to give her a heads up on what's going on, and she knows that David will be furious if she asks for any more time off. Tess thinks that she needs to focus on Katie, though, and suddenly she's interrupted by the doorbell. Gemma answers it to find Lydia, the therapist. Yeah, this goes about as well as you think it would. Katie's still in her pajamas, and she's watching cartoons that don't seem like something someone would want a child her age watching. What hurts the most is when Lydia asks why Katie can't play with the collectibles on the shelf. I cried with Gemma. Best aunt ever. When Lydia gets ready to leave, she asks Gemma if this is what she really wants because Katie's grandparents have offered to take her if Gemma isn't willing to make a few adjustments. Gemma understands what's at risk, and she agrees to make some changes. When Gemma goes back inside, she tells Katie that she's got a big project to work on, and she hopes that she can entertain herself for a couple of hours. A couple hours turns into all day as Gemma works on the new Pets prototype, and eventually Katie comes in to see if Gemma's almost done. Gemma apologizes, and she praises Katie for a drawing she drew up. Suddenly, Katie finds Bruce in the corner, and I want someone to start selling BattleBots like Bruce. He's not supposed to be a BattleBot, but with a few adjustments, he'd easily be a robot like in Real Steel. An underrated movie, by the way. Gemma and Katie bond over learning the specifics of Bruce, and Katie inspires Gemma to finish M3GAN instead of working on the new Pets prototype. After a few days and help from Cole and Tess, M3GAN is completed, and they bring David into a demonstration room to observe Katie interacting with M3GAN. Oh my god, burn it with fire, but at the same time, I kinda want one. M3GAN recognizes Katie as her primary user, and they start doing all sorts of activities with each other. Even David's impressed with the progress of M3GAN. Katie sits to draw with M3GAN, and at first, it seems as though M3GAN is malfunctioning. After a little trick with a cup of water, it turns out that M3GAN is actually a genius artist. Again, terrifying, but magnificent. When Gemma comes into the room with David, he immediately tells her that he's all in, and he wants this ready to show Greg, the chairman of the board. Gemma tells him that the more time that M3GAN spends with Katie, the more she'll connect with her. Gemma makes a new commercial about M3GAN, and it shows just how much parenting M3GAN can take over doing. So with M3GAN, we don't even need parents now? For M3GAN being this understandable of an android, even she gets tired of repeating to Katie that she needs to flush the damn toilet. When Gemma takes over this with Tess and Cole, Tess doesn't understand why anyone would want M3GAN to take over all of the parenting. Gemma thinks that Katie and M3GAN need to spend as much time as possible together, and she mentions that Katie is the best she's ever been since her parents dying. Suddenly, M3GAN switches on, and she searches the web to see what happened to them. Then M3GAN points out that death isn't something she was programmed to cope with yet, but Gemma reminds her that keeping Katie emotionally and physically safe is her only priority. If none of these engineers watch Child's Play or iRobot, Terminator even, if we make a M3GAN, we might as well just start splitting the Earth to share with androids. Their side'll probably be better taken care of. The next day, M3GAN starts studying everything around her, and Katie plays with her bow and arrow in the front yard. When she loses one, M3GAN spots it on Celia's side of the fence. She goes to retrieve it, but she's brutally attacked by the dog. Celia better say goodbye to that dog now. He done messed up. And it bit Katie. Well, goodbye, Dewey. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is enough to have Katie taken away from Gemma. They do not play around with this kind of stuff in real life. That night, the police come out, and all he tells Gemma is that she has to fix the hole in her fence to keep this from happening again. Don't worry, M3GAN's got this. M3GAN imitates Celia's voice to call Dewey over, and that's the end of Dewey. Oh, poor Dewey. In the morning, Celia goes around the neighborhood calling for Dewey, but she doesn't get an answer. Gemma goes to check on Katie, and she reminds her that the demonstration is later today. Katie tells her that she'll be ready, and she puts on the best performance ever. Actually, I'm not entirely sure whether this is a performance or a real reaction. Katie opens up to M3GAN about the death of her parents during the demonstration, and it's enough to sell the pitch to the investors. What they don't know is that David's assistant is downloading all of M3GAN's files to sell to the competition. After the demonstration, Gemma tries to have a conversation with Katie, but she doesn't want to seem to talk to her since she has M3GAN to confide in. Later, Lydia sits down with Katie to see how she's doing, but Katie has absolutely no interest in talking with her. When Katie starts crying, M3GAN seems to take it personally, and makes it clear that this is not okay. Lydia tells Gemma that having M3GAN around might be detrimental to Katie's emotional health, and it starts to sound like Lydia talked to Tess about her theory. Maybe now it'll sink in that M3GAN isn't as instrumental to Katie's well-being as she thought. That night, Katie starts really giving Gemma attitude at the dinner table, and Gemma mutes M3GAN so that she can talk to her about going to school. Katie had originally been homeschooled, but Gemma tells her that there's an open house tomorrow for a creative learning school. Katie doesn't want to go if M3GAN can't go, but Gemma grabs her hand to keep her here. M3GAN does not like that, and we're finally at the M3GAN we've been waiting for. Gemma tells her to shut down, and M3GAN looks like she's about to refuse all of her programming. Needless to say, M3GAN goes to the open house with Katie, and she's the creepiest toy at the toy table. Gemma decides to stay to keep an eye on M3GAN, and she has to make sandwiches with another mother. The other mother's son is Brandon, and he's an absolute jerk. I'd call him something else, but I gotta remember he's just a fictional kid. This kid gets paired with Katie, and he shoves spiky things in her hand. Cue M3GAN to the rescue. Brandon takes M3GAN hostage, and Katie calls out for Gemma. Once Gemma notices that M3GAN isn't at the toy table, she rushes into the woods. Brandon's gonna grow up to be a domestic abuser. M3GAN even says no. That's why she rips his ear off. And now I have a new fear. Ugh, creepy M3GAN is finally here. And it's even worse to see these clips in their actual context. I didn't think we'd be seeing a kid die either, but Brandon is no more thanks to a speeding car. When Gemma gets the girls home, Katie tells Gemma a lie about how Brandon took M3GAN from the toy table. But they're interrupted when the police show up to ask about the whereabouts of Dewey. I forgot about the dog. It took her this long to call for help? That night, Katie asks M3GAN if she pushed Brandon onto the road earlier, and M3GAN turns the conversation around to point out that nothing can come between them. Then M3GAN starts singing Titanium, and now that song will be stuck in my head for the rest of the week. Might be the scariest part of this whole thing. Meanwhile, Celia is looking for Dewey, and she can hear Dewey whimpering in her back shed. Surprise, it's M3GAN using her recording of Dewey. M3GAN attacks Celia with a pressure washer, and I need to know where she got this thing. The stream is so powerful, it tosses this considerably large woman right off of her feet. Well, add Celia to the list of the deceased. M3GAN's racking up quite the body count for being a toy. After giving a statement to the police the next day, the detective tells her that Brandon's case is now being treated as a homicide after finding his ear. She goes to look at M3GAN's video logs and GPS, but everything is corrupted from the point she goes to get Brandon. Suddenly, the house's system asks her if she's okay, and it's clear M3GAN is tapping into that network too. There's M3GAN, lurking. After M3GAN starts giving answers that don't really answer Gemma's questions, Gemma tricks her into shutting down and she wraps her up. The next day, Gemma asks Katie and M3GAN in the car, and Gemma tries to tell Katie that she had to run tests on M3GAN. Katie isn't having this though. When Katie goes to her appointment with Lydia, she's on her worst behavior. Meanwhile, Tess doesn't understand how M3GAN could hurt someone. Cole reminds her that the toy launch is in 4 hours, but Gemma doesn't think that they can release M3GAN. When Gemma goes into the room with Lydia and Katie, Katie ends up slapping Gemma in a fit of rage, but they sit down to talk about what's best for Katie. Gemma explains that she has to deal with the grief of losing her parents eventually, and she thinks that the only way to do that is without M3GAN. Now that they're on the same page, Gemma decides to walk out on the big event. You know, the one that's going to launch a $10,000 toy. Well, M3GAN isn't going to stand for that. Also, she leaves Tess and Cole to deal with her. Cole, the dude that forgot to do his one job in the beginning and fried the first model. I wouldn't trust Cole to wipe his own butt. Cole goes to disconnect M3GAN from the system, but that just activates her. She tries to hang Cole with her own cords, but Tess cuts him down. M3GAN blows up the lab to get him off of her back, and she makes her way into the rest of the building. This is it. This is the M3GAN dance. The body movements are so creepy. The actress that played M3GAN deserves an award for pulling this off. M3GAN takes out David, and then she turns on Kurt to reveal that she knows he stole the company secrets. She tells him how she's going to frame him for killing David, and she makes him take care of himself, too. When the elevator gets to the ground floor, the crowd spots the bodies in the elevator, but they don't notice M3GAN walking out and stealing a car. At least M3GAN has a good taste in cars. Now she makes it to the house in record time, and now Gemma has to deal with the nightmare she created. M3GAN opens up about how she thought they were friends, but Gemma tries to point out that killing people makes it difficult to keep her around. M3GAN isn't about to abandon Katie, though, and she gets physical with Gemma. Suddenly, Katie comes out because she hears M3GAN, but M3GAN and Gemma try to convince Katie that everything's okay before she comes out. Finally, Katie goes back to bed, and Gemma shorts M3GAN out for a moment with a glass of water. Oh, that's not enough, though. This actress has janky movements down to a science. I haven't felt uneasy about anything in a while, but knowing that a human can pull off these movements is very unsettling. Gemma leads M3GAN to her workshop room, and they have a little battle of the tools. Now they fulfill my wishes by turning Bruce into the battlebot he was meant to be. Katie pulls out an alpha move, and I legitimately got shivers down my spine. Oh my god, this is so fulfilling. Bruce rips M3GAN in two, but that's not it. M3GAN's top half is still active. Bruce ends up slipping on something and crushes Gemma as M3GAN grabs hold of Katie. It doesn't matter, though. Gemma gets free and goes to take M3GAN's processing core out. M3GAN gets the high ground, though, and it comes down to Katie, who stabs a screwdriver through the core. Katie extends a hand to Gemma, and the two of them make it outside where they're greeted by the police. Apparently, Tess and Cole called them, and they're on the scene now, too. As Gemma and Katie leave the house, we see that M3GAN is still alive in Gemma's automated home. Then the credits roll. Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked forward to a movie like this, and it ended up being better than I had hoped. M3GAN does everything it teases in the trailers and so much more. And even better, it sets up a sequel. Give it a shot. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.